Hi, listeners. This is Rosetta Wood from Daily Spark. Welcome to another episode of Daily Spark. Today on our show, we have a very interesting guest with an exceptional research and clinical background in brain behavior. I'm proud to introduce Mani Pavuluri MD, PhD. She is Director of Pediatric Mood Disorders Program and Associate Professor in Psychiatry at the University of Illinois at Chicago. She is the author of the book titled What Works for Bipolar Kids. Bipolar is a mental condition marked by alternating periods of manic, euphoric mood, and major depressive moods. Dr. Pavuluri is named as the best doctor, the top doctor, and top psychiatric by her peers and consumers in the United States of America. Her scientific work is a trailblazer for how we understand brain circuitry, function, and medication effects on the brain function in mood disorders such as bipolar disorder and ADHD through functional magnetic neural imaging technology. We Teach by Tom Herner. If a child doesn't know how to read, we teach. If a child doesn't know how to swim, we teach. If a child doesn't know how to multiply, we teach. If a child doesn't know how to drive, ride his bike, we teach. If a child doesn't know how to behave, we teach. We punish. Why can't we finish the last sentence as automatically as we do the others? This is why we're interviewing Dr. Pavuluri today. Dr. Pavuluri will gracefully share with us the techniques she uses to help and teach children with behavior bipolar disorders using a process called rainbow therapy. These techniques will be of great value to children, teachers, parents, and caregivers. Listeners, let's join her as she begins.
Thank you so much, and I'm honored to be part of what you're doing and your larger mission in helping children.
Well, thank you very much. We're very fortunate to have you on our podcast today. We know that you have a very interesting journey, and we would like for you to begin by sharing your journey with us with this question of how did you start working on brain behavior research?
Essentially, I began in 2000 with opening one of the very first Midwestern, as well as one of the first few pediatric mood disorders programs in the country, specializing in treating bipolar disorder and depression in young children. That led me to first develop ways to diagnose these children and develop algorithm of medication management. This is followed by wanting to know what exactly goes on in the brain and the circuitry that operates, that is responsible for emotion dysregulation and also some thinking problems and learning problems. So that curiosity and the need to solve the problem of understanding children beyond the diagnosis led me to begin the research and also clinical work. And what is fascinating is around that same time, functional magnetic neuroimaging methodology has begun in our field of medicine, where one can, without any harm, take pictures of the brain and how brain operates. Around that time, also, Dr. Sweeney, my mentor, the then mentor, joined University of Illinois at Chicago, and he's one of the pioneers in the research of fMRI. And so it was just a very fortunate situation where there is a question to be answered, there's a technology, and there is camaraderie and collaboration available. So it was just meant to be.
Now, you mentioned Dr. Sweeney. What is fMR?
Functional magnetic neuroimaging. That is learning how the blood flows in the brain and any aberrations as the brain is put to work. Say, for example, children lie in the scanner and they will be doing some small puzzles, and then the fMRI, their head will be in a coil, and magnetic pulses are sent around the brain, and that those magnetic pulses will be influential in recording the blood flow changes as the kids are doing the puzzles, So if they can't do the puzzle well, or whatever they're doing in the magnet gets recorded in terms of how the blood is flowing to various parts of the brain. And so when you take the pictures and reconstruct the images, then that tells us where there is dysfunction, where blood flow is impaired in certain areas while doing certain things. That helps us to decode brain circuitry aberrations.
Okay. Now let me tell you about an experience that I had. As I said, I am an early childhood education professional, and I had a student in my class. The student was 3 going on to 4, very close to the age of 4 years old. And he was diagnosed as bipolar. And I was just amazed to have a student in my class, with this disorder. Would he have went through and been tested through Dr. Sweeney's procedure, the fMR?
First of all, I want to say that Dr. Sweeney is not the only person who's doing this. He was just a senior doctor at the time, 15 years ago, that I met to help me begin. That's all I'm saying. Mm-hmm. And he's a pioneer. But a lot of people are doing fMRI images everywhere, and there are a ton of labs. Mm-hmm. But what the question then comes the question: can fMRI procedure diagnose bipolar disorder? The answer at the moment is no. But what fMRI research showed us, and the group data in the field of child psychiatry in general, is that the children who have affect dysregulation or emotional dysregulation with severe tantrums, aggression, irritability, with various other problems of mood lability and depression, with yo-yo-like mood and increased energy, all those symptoms, along with the classic manic symptoms that you see, if they're present, then the brain shows some abnormalities in the way it functions in certain areas of the brain, such as, the bottom of the brain at the front end called prefrontal cortex, and in amygdala, which is a small area at the bottom of the brain. And so what is interesting to note is the same regions are affected also in anxiety, but in a different context. So looking at brain pictures will not tell you what diagnosis the kid is having unless you know the rest of the psychopathology at this stage, and how the child is reacting and acting. And the third part for your question is the 4-year-old. The 4-year-old child is still developing, and there are so many factors in the family such as reactivity and how the parents are responding to perhaps a kid with difficult temperament. So a very informed approach to understanding the milieu, the environment, the context, and emotion dysregulation is more important to characterize the emotional problems before you even think about the diagnosis in a 4-year-old.
Okay. Now, where would you position this child with emotional learning? Would you start that in the beginning, or would you get to know the child, then start like the emotional learning?
Having brought up 2 boys, I understand that learning starts as early as children are born. I mean, we are interacting with the child all the time, Rosetta. You know more than anyone else about that. So about teaching the children how to respond, soothe them, and think about why they're hurting, why they're reacting. So adjusting the environment to child's emotions and reactivity begins as soon as you spot that there is some issue there. And that requires adjustment on the part of the mom, how they talk to the child, and how the pair, not only the parents, but how the teachers and peers and siblings respond. Everything counts.
Yes, I agree with you. Everything does count. When I look back over the years that I have been teaching, and I clearly see that serious behavior problems, brain problems are escalating. And do you agree with this?
Absolutely. And it's not only that it's not so much that they're escalating, but we're understanding the brain problems or the biological problems with the children's nature and their difficulties in various domains of brain function, much more because of technology that's available to us. Plus, we are talking about it constantly. And another very important thing, Rosetta, is that children with, say, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder have also problems that are shared with problems that are also seen in bipolar disorder. So many of the kids who have emotional problems also have thinking problems, like problems in problem solving, executive function difficulties, such as organization, planning, flexibility. So the fact of the matter is that you should understand the entire brain and how it functions through even understanding the symptoms first, as they're apparent to you as you examine and interact rather with the child.
Mm-hmm. Yes, because I know in a typical classroom, like 80% of the children will be able to easily follow the directions, or as we say, go with the flow. And of the remaining, 15% will occasionally need to be redirected from time to time. And the 5% will require intensive behavior management. Do you agree with these percentage, and how would you make recommendations to a professional as to how to help these children to catch up, the 5% that require the intense behavior management?
Rosetta, you should have been even like a quintessential researcher yourself. The way you're just throwing those numbers is so spot on. I can't even believe, you were, just eyeballing these percentages, and they almost approximate to what research has shown in the field. 5% of them do require the intensive intervention in general population, which equates to a classroom, perhaps. The children that require intensive intervention is nothing but helping the parents and teachers come together, plan their individual education plan or 504 plan at the classroom, help the parents to not feel guilty, help the teachers to not call the parents all the time, but collaborate with them and come up with a plan where the children can be, helped in the classroom or triage them to special classroom or therapeutic school based on the need and intensity and severity of the problems. The interventions themselves could be very specific, but they could also be very general. In fact, organization is always an issue. Compassion, understanding their struggles is always an issue. Along with that, there are often associated learning difficulties such as reading, writing, and mathematics, and getting tutoring for that, not getting frustrated when they can't process information quickly, helping them along while the class is reading. All these techniques need a better way to manage with nuanced understanding.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I agree with you. It's important that the child is confident, secure, and feels love and trust and good about himself. When I say trust, I mean trust with a teacher or some professional educator, because trust is very important for a child, for all children that are going through, a bipolar disorder or and anything that's, can hinder their education or developmental process.
Yes, Rosetta. I mean, you hit on a very important point there. Trust and safety. Unless the children feel safe and trusted and someone is out there to have their back, how can a child survive? I mean, I think it's not only a child that's affected, but the entire humanity requires some compassion and understanding to support them and understand their point of view and hold them to grow and blossom, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Is there any method that you use to help and teach children with behavior disorders?
Especially those with emotional problems, we use what is called rainbow therapy, child and family focused cognitive behavior therapy, that kind of encompasses all aspects of psychological help or psychotherapy, if you like, which is a systematic intervention for those with bipolar disorder. And the reason I say bipolar disorder as an example is that if you treat bipolar, you can treat just about any disorder, because that disorder has many associated features such as anxiety, attention problems, oppositionality, stubbornness, and reactivity, along with the quintessential symptoms of bipolar disorder. Because you know what? The brain is affected in general across board. So I think the most important things I think about is in rainbow therapy, in which we created this and designed this therapy very early on around 2003, 4, and 5 when it took shape, and then subsequently Dr. West has done a randomized control trial in our lab in our program. And that is really one of the nation's leading treatment program that has the elements of rainbow, RAINBOW. R is a routine for the child, doing most important events of the day in a routine manner so that the child knows what to expect. A is affect regulation and anger control, how you help them to modulate emotions. I is I can do this, which means one has to develop self-esteem, positive self-stories, and positive things need to be written about themselves as a narrative in their head, as well as practically we do storytelling about one's positive aspects. N is no negative thinking. That is putting an end to going in the negative spiral. B is being a good friend and also balanced lifestyle for parents. O is optimal problem solving, or oh, how can we solve it? It's a collaboration, it's a collaborative problem solving with the child. And then W is ways to get support from the safety network that we were talking about, the trusted people that the kid can go to for help in crisis. So that sort of brings together self-instructive, cognitive restructuring and behavioral modulation, as well as interpersonal nurturing aspect of interpersonal psychotherapy. So it also weaves in mindfulness and brings parents to also understand this in helping children using rainbow techniques while they help themselves as well with the rainbow techniques. So it's a family as well as individual person's intervention.
Wow, that's exciting. That's very valuable information. And thank you for explaining what rainbow therapy is. Now, I have another question for you. I have a child in my classroom that is very defiant. He's highly intelligent, but very defiant. How can I use the rainbow therapy to help him?
I think that most important thing is for the parents and teachers to understand one principle. It is called projective identification. Projective identification means you actually talk to the child in a way that you expect the positive things are happening and you believe in the child and treat them with compassion. Then the child is likely to respond in a positive manner to the teacher. That's called projective identification, which I write in my blog, which we will talk in a little bit. The other thing is listening to the child. We always go to the child thinking what they're going to say, what you want to say, and how to shape them, discipline them, and think about consequences. The most important thing is don't think about consequences, but think about influencing the child by listening and asking them what they need, and giving the time. We're always in a rush. I know that you're a teacher, have a bunch of children, and it's very difficult, but it's very important to stop and think and listen. That's where you begin. Beyond that, I think helping them to look at their positive aspects, helping them to think, engage in conversation of how to they come down in anger, helping them to see how others would respond positively if they're nice, making them sit by some compassionate students or circulate them, because kids can burn out as well, and then solve the problem by pulling them aside sometimes if there is any crisis, and also set up some mentorship around the child. It could be another special education teacher or any other resources that you might have that the child can enjoy. Even boys and girls clubs have brothers and sisters that come and play with the child. Those kinds of resources are really good as well.
Do you find this behavior of being defiant more in boys than in girls at a young age?
That is true. Boys have boys present with oppositionality in a slightly higher percentage than girls, and also boys tend to have slightly slower sensory motor development, and it is understandable that the boys are boys kind of phrase seems to be used a lot. While we don't want to create that impression that girls don't have ODD, they don't have bipolar, I would say otherwise, that treat individual as they come to you, especially in clinical practice, and not have any bias towards the boys necessarily.
Okay. Now, how do you help parents in bringing up difficult children?
I think that the same principles of what I said about affect regulation and building up self-esteem, staying positive, keeping it simple, creating a safety network. They're all very important. But the one thing that I really tell most parents is with this mnemonic called earful. Earful means E for empathy. A is being authoritative, not authoritative. I mean, what I mean is authoritarian, not not imposing authority, but being confident about what they're doing. And R is reasoning, that's using logic. And also full is, doing it consistently, year four. So that's a kind of an easy way to remember. First, when there's a problem, empathize. I know how you're feeling it, sweetheart. You want this, but it's difficult to just, engage in computers, say, for example. I know you want to do this, but we want to be able to do something else right now. Then you can come back to it. I understand how you feel when I say no. And then you just say, it's very important that you come now for dinner, and be very firm. And then logic about the issue of how being stubborn and difficult and not participating would be impeding what the family or him or her has to accomplish. So those are consistent messages, and especially beginning with empathy. One has to also be a great role model. And also, I think the persistence in being able to each time meet the child's needs, and take your time to teach them, influence them, build them up, believe in them. That would melt the inflexibility of the children and difficulties that with them digging their feet. A lot of the time, parents say, "Oh, but I'm positive, I praise them." But it's important to praise them in detail about what they're doing, how you like it, why you like it, how they have done it, and how they changed something. That kind of feedback really is something that will last a long time for the child.
Yes, I agree with you, because I notice even with my students, when they do an art project using magic markers or just coloring, and they make a design, and they say to me, "Look at Miss Rosetta, look what I did." And I just don't say, "Oh, that's nice." I look at the picture, I talk about the color, and I say, this is one of my favorite colors. Can you tell me why you use this color? And, I continue to praise their picture, even though it has, it might be a lot of just lines going back and forth. But to them, it means a lot of value to them. So the more I praise them, the more I talk about the picture, the color of the picture, and I might say, this line is going up and this line is going across. And can you tell me why? And they give me a great, amazing explanation of this. So it's important that we empower the child, whatever they want to talk about,
And yeah, exactly. And along with it, you could say how, if that's their thing, how the art is helping release their creativity, how one can frame something like that, and how one can build on the strength, especially if that is their strength. What is the next step that they could do? So you are not only praising and in detail, but you're moving them forward with it.
Yes. Yes, I had an experience also with a student that just recently lost his mother. And the child was out of school for 2 weeks. But the best thing the father could have done was brought him back to the classroom, to a trusting environment. And they were holding a lot of grief inside. They didn't know, at that young age, they didn't know how to release it. So one day they came to me and they just decided to talk about their mother. And, it was an impulse moment for me. So the only thing I could do was give them a pencil and a piece of paper, and I just had them draw what they were feeling. And the way they explained it, that, they said that, their mother was in the box, and she had on her favorite clothes, and, they really went into details, and they drawed, she had red hair. They made her hair red. But to them, this was very valuable information. And the more I talked about it, the more you could see, like, the release, that was the burden that they had on themselves, that was just being released, and they just had freedom.
Yes.
They had freedom. And then at one point they cried and they hugged me. And, being a teacher, I hugged them back. And then deep inside in their belly, I could feel this release coming from within. And I couldn't explain it to anybody. I'm like, they're going to be okay. Because they experienced this release at a young age. It's not like they're going to carry it with them, when they get into high school, college. They're going to be able to go on with their life. So, I had to pat myself on the back for it, because it was, like I said, it was a very impulse moment, but it was very valuable to the child. And it's like their relationship with me is even stronger now. If they have any challenges in the classroom, they'll come to me, and I'm like, wow.
See, there's so many things happened right there. You were listening unconditionally. You let them speak. You gave them space. They expressed. You validated it. They had a chance to cry. You developed a trusted relationship. You filled a void about a maternal figure who is willing to listen to them. They're not alone. That safety network and compassion is amazing. And a lot of the time people talk about this technique and that technique. To be honest with you, the simple goodness is all we need. And I wrote an article in Psychotherapy recently about so many therapies, right from people like Margaret Mahler, Freud, Anna Freud, and Wayland's defenses, all kinds of things that I learned as a youngster, as a child psychiatry fellow years ago. And I always wondered how to integrate these and what is the meaning of all these techniques and stuff. As much as they were filtered into my psyche in understanding and amalgamating to a certain sophistication, I think the bottom line really is the goodness in a human being and being able to extend that giving and listening. That really is something that the children or any recipient will feel when you're talking to them. They will feel it if you're genuine.
Like I said, I felt it. And, I couldn't explain it to anybody else. I mean, it was just,
the children feel it. Yeah. I think that a lot of good work, to be honest with you, Rosetta, goes on in closed doors when we all do incredible things like I don't mean to say we're angels, but we kind of assume certain important roles in the children as such. And so many grateful things will be exchanged. But, we don't have opportunity to say, oh, I did this. But most important is that they remain a trophy to our existence and calling that we are carrying towards the children. And that's all it matters.
Yes, that's true. I have a question to ask you. Who is your most admired behavior therapist?
Behavior therapist that I do admire, you mean?
Yes.
Living or dead?
Whatever one is, has been the most influence in your research, your teachings.
Yeah, I mean, my research mentor, Dr. Sweeney, is an amazing man, and he taught me about the fMRI research. But he's more like a technical brain research and the detail that I really benefited from. But beyond that, as such in therapy, there are so many masters that are incredible.
Yeah.
But there is one psychotherapist called Jeff Layton in New Zealand where I used to work, and when he used to speak, people used to just cry. He's that compassionate, and I used to be very critical of him. Why are you really making all the people cry? But you need to really have some sort of like say something so that you don't let people be so incontinent with their emotions. But now looking back, that kind of allowing people to express is an amazing thing. So that he is definitely one amazing therapist, and he was my psychotherapy supervisor some 30 years ago. Okay. So, but these are defining moments of your training that you carry with you forever.
Now, how do you measure your success right now? You gave us so much valuable information, the rainbow therapy and just the EAR. How do you measure your success right now?
Most of what I have done in my life have always have been documented and used in the world, and a lot of young people have took upon them as to solve several questions in child psychiatry field across the world, influenced by some of our earlier work and developing our clinics everywhere in various countries. So though the fact that they're all excitedly working on various problems that I gave them to solve is very exciting for me, and seeing those young people grow up and give even more to the world is very exciting. I see that as a success, and I also see that my own children thrive and they are doing amazing things, and I am very, very happy to be a mother, which makes me very happy. And beyond that, I think I take humility in also being a wife and also a professor in child psychiatry, taking care of children every day. And the more I come to grassroots of helping people and translate neuroscience to daily work in a very simple way, I feel that my life is fulfilled than sitting in the ivory tower. Now I am able to take what is done in the field, not only my old work, but everyone that has done and is still doing. There's so much is documented, but nothing is being translated. Or, well, it is, but not a lot is being translated. So my mission is to bring that wisdom and discovery to helping people on a daily basis. And any opportunity to do that is a blessing for me, to go in a bigger, larger scale, to reach more audience, to kind of influence the world. And that's an ongoing pursuit of mine. And that's where I'll measure my success of how many people I can help. And that's all I care about.
Wow, that's amazing. I really admire you. You seem so very confident right now. Was that always the case?
People, really appreciate humility when people say, you know what, I'm nervous, I'm anxious, etc. when they were young. But you know what, anxiety is something part of everyone's lives, but I always felt that I have something I can offer, and that gets stronger by the day. But every day I felt like I'm really relatively strong in my own way. But you know what? A secret, Rosetta, after 35 is stop trying. And then you say, I'm good as it gets, man,
Yes.
Let me like myself,
Yes.
till then you struggle, you want to be better every day. But I stopped struggling around in my mid-30s and say, I'm good enough, and I have been confident in myself. Sure, yes.
Well, pat yourself on the back.
No.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Such a great opportunity to share.
Yes, thank you for sharing. Now, what inspired you to write your book, What Works for Bipolar Kids?
Actually, as I told you, there is so much that I do and think every day. When I do see a patient, for example, like you see your children, say, for example, you set up this podcast and Rose's Best, and also you set up this amazing website, helping children thinking, and there's a passion to dive into it, not giving up. And you yourself went on to finish your degree. You stood there, with the test of times, you took your time, but then you kind of kept at it, and you want to do more. So in the same way, I mean, I want to improve and document what I'm doing. And what happened was that there is a series by Guilford Books that people are writing, the best person in each field, like obsessive compulsive disorder person who's the best, and ADHD who's the best, like that. An expert in each area was asked by Guilford to write their experiences. And I was approached by one of the early pioneers who wrote on ADHD, who wrote was Peter Jensen. And he approached me and said, Mani, a lot of people told me that you would be the perfect person to write on bipolar disorder because the world sees you as the expert in bipolar disorder. So I said, okay, well, initially I resisted because books are not really the most famous way to spend your time when you're an angry researcher. But I felt like an obligation to really commit myself to write the book and be able to really document at that point in 2006, I think, to document everything I know in how I treat, coming from my heart, not being theoretical, but really I gave myself in that book. And that became like, to be honest with you, one of the most embraced books in the field. And I'm very fortunate and grateful for the turn of how it worked out.
Wow, that's fantastic. If our readers and listeners want to purchase your book, where can they do that?
Amazon.com.
Amazon.com. And the title is, can you give that to us?
What Works for Bipolar Kids.
Okay.
Actually, any emotion dysregulation kids could benefit reading from that book. In general, it's a broad stroke of helping kids with emotion dysregulation.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you so much. Now, do you have any suggestions that you would like to share with our audience?
The one thing that I really appreciate if people can visit is drmanipavuluri.com. It is DRMANI Pavuluri, PAVULURI.com. DRMANI PAVULURI.com, drmanipavuluri.com. And that has a lot of blog posts on helping children, and that could help millions of children in the world. So, I mean, that's my mission, as I said, translation of science to service, and also talking common sense, and especially helpful for teachers. So that is what I could give everybody in an ongoing basis. Yes. And also there is another, I'm a co-founder of medcircle.com, which is a digital health education platform, which is also very important, not only in mental health, but every part of physical problems, or you can get to learn about health problems and how to solve them with daily stories and science. It's called MedCircle, MEDCIRCLE.com, medcircle.com. So that's also a very nice product for health education. So that I just want to give those two tools.
Can you share with us one of the stories from medcircle.com?
The story is that one of the persons who endowed my chair at the University of Illinois at Chicago in the past, Mr. Doug Colbeth, is a great philanthropist, and he wanted to start this company MedCircle, a digital platform, and he's a chairman. And Dr. Gupta is gastroenterologist, has become the CEO, and I'm a co-founder along with those two, and another person, Doug Patterson, who's actually a CFO for Oprah Winfrey in the past. So all of us got together and worked on it and developed this product, and it really is just launched. Actually, it's new. It's like a private network for health education. It looks like LinkedIn or Facebook, but it's private, but with a feed on every disorder that you can read about.
Okay, I'm sure our listeners will go to that to the medcircle.com for that valuable information that they can learn, and I'm sure that it will be a everlasting experience for them.
I think so.
Yes, I think it will be. You have been such an inspiration on this podcast today, and I just want to applaud you for all the valuable work that you're doing, and I wish you continued success in your journey.
Thank you, Rosetta, and you too. Have a wonderful life, and you are contributing so much for children, and I bow to you too. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.